Hello. Hello, chat. How's everyone? Uh, my shoes are, my walkway is very slick, slippery. It was a wintry mix, I believe is the definition, but that was turned into ice. And ice is turning into a hazard. But there's enough sun today to melt away a good amount of it, so I'm trying to stay safe walking on the concourse to deliver y'all a pod. Hello all. I hope everyone had a good post-winter meetings. I promised, I keep making the promise that this is going to be time agnostic, but you know, you never know if someone's going to watch this like 4 years from now, and like, who's going to watch this 4 years from now? No one's going to watch this 4 years from now, but if someone does, they're not going to have a time reference for the winter meetings in 2025. It's not even like I talk about things that are like so current that you need timestamps on. It's not a news podcast. Oh my god, this is looking treacherous. Do we walk this, chat? Do we walk that? Okay, let's chance it. Let's chance it. How crazy is it? Okay, that's crazy. I'm not chancing that. That's actually ice. That is an ice rink. That is an ice rink that I am not going to chance. We'll do it another way. So, a few questions today. There's one question, which isn't really a question, but someone posted it in the React material. So, in the Discord, it's not just the Yap WAN questions channel. I do look at the entire channel, the entire Discord. This one stuck out to me just because there's a news article that came out today about tech standardizations in Major League Baseball. And a few, let's call them influencers, but a few people who are prominent in the sports data space, but maybe more specifically the baseball data space, made their opinions known. And obviously I don't want to say too much. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But and as always, we should probably wait for the league to come out with the statement before anyone else does. But since it is in the news right now, I'd like to mention kind of what it all means. So first and foremost, what is it? As reported, there's going to be tech standardization. So, for example, say you want to use Nick WAN's pitch camera. Any team could go out and buy Nick WAN's pitch camera, whether it's a straight up hardware purchase, or you lease it, or you have a contractor come in and use it. However your contract is written up, you can do that. That is completely fine. There are no regulations on you going out and purchasing or using the services of Nick WAN's pitch camera. Right? This is a hypothetical situation. I don't actually have a pitch camera, but let's just say, for example, okay, well, in the coming, if you do this, if a team does this, that doesn't necessarily mean all teams do this. Rather, the opposite. A lot of teams probably won't do this. Hold on one second. I gotta walk through this, and there's a meeting happening. Oh. Okay, chat. Sorry, there was a meeting. So it's not like if you buy a camera, everyone gets access to the service. That one team does. The issue is there seems to be a lot of different services and vendors that are purchasing all sorts of different stuff, which obviously is within the rules. That is something that not only are teams doing, but teams are getting big advantages for. There are two issues here. One issue, which is perhaps similar to, is this way like too much snow and ice? Let's look out into the park. There's too much snow and ice. But regardless, look at this. This is just ice. This is, I don't know if you can hear the crunchiness of the ice. This is just straight up ice. All right, people have been walking around here. Look, chat. Have you ever seen what a baseball park looks like? Snow and iced over? It looks like that, and that looks cold. Baseball teams, on one side, it's like access to this data. Some teams have some data, other teams have not that data. Some teams have different data, etc. A good example of this is not too long ago, and in a lot of ways still existing, minor league data when you're doing like pitch tracking, ball tracking. At the major league level, it's all one company. It's Hawkeye, which is a Sony company. At the minor league level, you might have one of 4 different systems. Really 5, but I believe in practice it's 4. So you have Hawkeye, TrackMan. Hawkeye, obviously Sony. TrackMan is TrackMan. And then you have Yacker Tech, which is another system, different system. You have SMT, which is another ball tracking system. There's one more. And Kinetrax, where Kinetrax was bought by Sony under the Hawkeye brand, and so you'll have Hawkeye Sony. Let's see if this is. Right now I'm just walking in snow and ice, so it's like very treacherous. So you have Hawkeye Sony, and now you're gonna have Kinetrax owned by Sony, and over time it will just become a part of the Hawkeye system. So you have all of these different systems at all of these different minor league parks. And obviously, in terms of player development, that creates difficulties comparing perhaps the quality from one system to the quality of another system. So there's inconsistency in terms of quality, inconsistency in terms of even things like unit values. Sometimes speeds are coming out as feet per second as opposed to miles per hour. So it creates even other smaller issues like unit conversion on top of like unit precision. So this is a concern, mainly because of that, the variability, and having a standardization just like in Major League Baseball, where it's all Hawkeye, would be helpful just to eliminate some of that variance, right? That's like variance that is very much within our control if we all just use the same stuff. So from the league's perspective, it's a plus. Like there's consistency in the quality of data throughout all of baseball. And it's important for them to have that because not only do they see it as a data quality mission, but they also see it as a data equity mission. So not all parks, minor league parks, have been installing Hawkeye systems. So all of these club-owned systems are what they sound like. They're owned by the club. Hold on, I have to do the iconic Nick Wan corner of the park look across the river. But it's so icy. See, I usually stand right there, chat. But snow and ice obviously has made it difficult. Oh, it is really slick out here. Oh, nice. Snowy Kentucky. So when it comes to standardization, it also means forcing or mandating other organizations to install these kinds of systems. Not all parks use Hawkeye at the minor league level because it's a club-owned system and it costs a lot of money. So there are teams who have foregone using Hawkeye at their levels, whether, whatever their decision process is because of that is up to them, of course, but I have no idea why. But in terms of standardization, this would force teams to purchase a specific set of hardware. I thought someone was like opening a door, but it was just ice falling off the roof. Like I said, treacherous, chat. So, when it comes to standardization, it is a data quality mission, but it's also a data equity mission. So forcing teams or mandating teams to use the same hardware is also like telling them to buy specific hardware. And then on the other side of it is a financial reason. So when they're club-owned systems, you also have club-specific deals. What is that noise? Sounds like an alarm or a bell. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't sound bad, but I don't know what it is. Anyway, sorry, Chad. Don't you hear that? That's coming from here. Okay, well, I have to walk this way anyway. So, club-owned systems, in terms of contracts, do vary. So not all clubs get the same deal. For example, say I buy a system of say Nick Wynn's pitching cameras. 1 year, I'm selling it for $10,000. The next year, because of how good it went the first year, so many people were like, wow, these cameras are so good. We want Nick Wynn's special cameras at all of our parks, and we're a new client. So I'm like, okay, well, the price has gone up to $25,000. So now not all teams are getting the same deals, which then causes discrepancies in budget, and some teams are better equipped to negotiate those down, and some teams are not. Some teams don't care, and some teams really care. So if you're centralizing how every team is paying, like they're all getting the same contract, then that is also a way to think about this as an equitable mission. But this does punish or penalize teams that have gotten good deals, right? So teams that have like put time into building good relationships with these vendors who are providing services. Now all of that is getting kind of taken away because MLB is trying to mandate all teams to have the same technology, and therefore we will all be under the same contract. And this isn't the first time they've done it. When they made the switch from the original StatCast cameras over to Hawkeye, that wasn't a decision by teams. That was a decision by the league, that was just what they were going to do. And then they said, for minor leagues, it's up to teams. and that was back in 2018 or 2019. So, at least that's what I think it was, the Hawkeye switch. Pretty sure it was then. So, when it comes to teams negotiating new deals, doing things for all of their parks, they're trying to make it so, one, teams don't have to negotiate that. The league will do it on your behalf, which for some teams that's good and some teams that's bad. They want all teams to have the same stuff, so they're going to force teams to buy more stuff. And for some teams that's good, for some teams that's bad. And when it comes to what is going to be available, for example, Nick Wann's pitch camera, that might not be an approved thing to buy. And so the league is also saying what you can't buy. So you're going to be able to buy a certain set of things, but that certain set of things it might not include all the things that you were used to using, right? So if you really like Nick Wann's pitch cameras, but it's not an approved vendor for MLB, and they're not negotiating a deal on behalf of all the clubs, then they're not going to have that as a technology you can use. So you're going to see a lot of vendors, particularly smaller vendors, I would say, probably leave the space, at least at the major league level. At the collegiate level, there's still a lot to do for vendors, but in terms of major leagues, there might not be because of this mandate. So there's a lot of pros and cons on both sides. And I would say, just as an outside observer, I'm not a part of any of these negotiations or discussions. While tech standardization, data equity is important, I do think that is important, and that should be something the league is in a position to strive for, attempt to accomplish. I question how rigid it's going to be to introduce new technology, because if it becomes apparent there's a new technology that is emergent and good, not dissimilar from Kinetrax or Hawkeye. For example, let's say there's a company that does bat tracking specifically more accurately than Kinetrax or Hawkeye. Let's say like their entire company is based around getting bat and swing data more accurate and more precise than any company out there. Okay, well, all teams are going to want that. But if there's now an approval process for vendors, then how much petitioning is it going to take to get that data acquired by MLB? And as a person who has dealt with contracts on the vendor side, it's not a short process. So, anyway, that's a very long summary of what was happening in terms of news for the league today. So, I don't have any more opinions on it, but as news rolls out, I'll update the pod. Dang, I had like so many questions, and now I know I'm not going to get to like half of them. So sorry, I might have to do another one tonight just to like catch up. But let's just stick on baseball questions. Next baseball question. Someone asked if I was going to be, like, in terms of career, is baseball the career? And I don't know if I've answered this before recently. I didn't see if I had. This said I didn't on the Discord, so. By the way, I post questions in the Discord. I read them all and answer usually all of them. And sometimes twice, like maybe this question. But someone asked if baseball was going to be the career I'm going to have forever, or if I might have another career? And it's a great question because it's something I like to tell people when they're in baseball. And I use an example that's not in baseball. So I was in grad school, and my advisor, Carrie Jordan, shout out Carrie Jordan at Utah State in the multisensory cognition lab. Carrie, I was talking to Carrie about what I want to research, and she said, yeah, well, whatever you research in grad school is most likely what you're not going to research in your career, at least the majority of your career. And I said, oh, like, as a grad student, I'm like, this is the stuff that fires me up. I really like strategy formation. I like EEG research. I like fMRI research. I like FNIRS research. I'd really like to continue studying this and see how far it goes. And she said, that's completely fine. And maybe you will, but if you take a look at any tenure track or tenured professor's research, compare what they did in grad school to what they're known for or currently doing. And you'll find that most of them don't do what they did in grad school or as a postdoc. And I was like, huh, that can't be right? But it was right. Carrie Jordan was very much knowledgeable in all of this. She worked on primates and animal models, and she works with humans now. Similarly, people were doing, addiction research, neuromechanics of reward systems, reward pathways, and now they're doing different joint action human behavioral modeling. So you have like very different early career versus like what you're known for, quote unquote, or what your career is worth, quote unquote, differences, right? And whenever someone asks me about like early career and early career advice, I always think about that, where, in your early career, are you in the job that you're going to be in, or are you going to be in the industry that you're in your early career 10 to 20 years from now? And if you can't definitively, with many reasons, say why you would be, the odds are pretty against that you will be. And that's not like a doomer take, that's just a real take. So many people access to jobs and being able to switch jobs are greater and wider than ever now. So why would it wouldn't make sense if people had the job that they get right out of college or their first career job, full-time job in an industry, getting paid a salary. They wouldn't stay at that job if they knew that there were other opportunities, and that's easier to find than ever now, at least like knowing what's out there. Getting them is a different story, but the attraction that the open market is always going to be a little more inflated than what you're getting is always pushing your incentive to leave your job sooner. So whenever someone asks like, oh, is like baseball going to be like your forever job? Like, do you see yourself having a career outside of baseball? I am almost 10 years into baseball now. When I first got into baseball, I didn't know if I was going to stay in baseball, and obviously I didn't in 2020 when I went to KFC, but I did stay in data science. So however you split industry versus skill, I suppose, is a different story. It's almost like in team fight tactics, like your different traits, sometimes they're classes and sometimes they're traits. Team fight tactics reference. Anyway, I think your skills, what jobs you would get, versus the industry you're in, like how you apply those skills, what problems are you solving, could change. And the industry can change more often than your skills, right? Your skills are your skills. Like if you're a data scientist, it's very likely you're going to continue to be a data scientist wherever you go. If you're an accountant, it's very likely you're going to be doing accounting work wherever you go. but the industry might change. So I would say it's very likely that I stay in baseball for long, because I've already been in baseball for longer than the vast majority of people who work in baseball. Most people work in baseball and they're out within like 2 or 3 years. They never find their way back. Either they don't want to be back or they can't come back because it's hard to get a job in baseball. So 10 years, almost 10 years, is a long time. And I would say, I guess I am in it for the long haul. Like, could I envision myself in other jobs? Yeah, because I've had other jobs. I could see myself going back into academia even. But that's not what I want. I want to be a part of a baseball team. I like baseball. I like everything about it. So obviously there are some things that I wish could change, but I think that's everyone in every job. So I have talked on stream about like when I'm done with baseball, what I would like to do next after baseball. And I do think like if I acquire enough capital, I'd love to invest into like green space and green tech. Maybe make my own thing or join a nonprofit doing the thing that I would like, which is buying empty lots in urban areas and revitalizing, doing beautification, green space work, because the economic incentives and social incentives and resource incentives when you literally turn empty lots into parks, green space, it's undeniable. Like, it's just a big advantage for that neighborhood. And I'd like to do that. I'd like to figure out a way to do that. So yeah, after baseball, maybe I still have the passion to improve our green spaces or revitalize green spaces, but hopefully that won't be for a very long time if I have my way, if I have my say, which I might not. Baseball also is not a job secure industry. It's not uncommon for people to just be fired, and it doesn't take too much for someone to get fired, have a bad season, be deemed ineffective, etc. And that hopefully is not the case for me, but it's not an impossibility, So, okay, so that's my answer. Hopefully I stay in baseball for a long time, but if I don't, ideally it's on my own terms. I could do one more while I walk back to my office. All right, this one was good. Someone asked about self-doubt and what were some of my biggest self-doubt moments. And ultimately, what do I do to overcome or exist, I suppose, with doubt? I think the important thing about doubt, about whether it's self-inflicted or whether it's real, and I guess it can be real if it's self-inflicted as well, but the thing about doubt, in my opinion, is a lot of the time, doubt exists because perceived risk is high. And an easy way to combat perceived risk is to crowdsource more opinions about the risk. And that is something that has helped me a ton. It's, in fact, important in the process of making any decision. The more opinions you can get about a decision, the less likely you're going to feel the risk is super high, or the other way, the less likely you feel that there's zero risk. Having a group of experts telling you what they believe is risk kind of can ground you back to reality, your perception versus what is actual is not always one-to-one. So my biggest risk moments or my biggest doubt moments are exactly that. Like, there are times where I'm so in on the analytics side of things, on the number side of things, and I always want like a method or a process to apply equally to everyone. I sometimes lose sight of some of these more general conversations of baseball. Like, is this person a good person? Do they fit our club? Do they make us better? In ways that aren't just stat-based, right? Analytics-based. And it's hard to like, be an expert in all realms, but when so many questions are that, I do get the sense that I need to be more well-rounded in knowing more about the person and not just the player, but my job is to know about the player objectively. So my doubt is the idea that the things that I contribute are, primary or meaningful or important as some of the other information we also use. And I do believe, from other people, they'll say, yeah, it's the number one thing we look at. We started decisions with it, which of course makes me feel good, but I always think on the other side, well, do I want to start conversations or do I want to end them? And not in some cringe cheesy way, but when it comes to the things that make us close the book on a decision, it wasn't how we started the conversation. We can start them all with, your opening move. Like if we're all comfortable with, king's pawn opening, okay. It's one of the most common. It's something we do. But when it gets to the end game and it's about skill and logic, where am I in that part of the conversation? I'd love to be equally contributing to all parts, but my doubt comes from the fact that I start conversations, but am I a part of the end of every conversation? And sometimes I am. And sometimes I feel that I'm not, but I am. And sometimes I feel like I'm not, and I'm not. So how do I manage that? Well, it goes back to the first thing. When you're crowdsourcing info, when you're talking to many people about a decision, it's important to do that, but it's also important to know when you aren't needed in a decision and that you can trust other people who are making that decision on the behalf of everyone, right? It's important to know that I don't have to be in every conversation, but my information is being used in all conversations. It's important that I have an avenue to let my opinion be heard, but I might not necessarily be in the room when a phone call or a decision's made. So trusting a process is really important. And if you can always fall back on the idea that so long as we're process-based, so long as we're following the recipe to make good decisions, then the feeling of doubt and how I contribute gets minimized. Okay, I don't necessarily have to be in every conversation in order to make good decisions. I don't have to be a contributor in all decisions with my voice in physically a room with other people. if our process is strong at making good decisions. So I lean towards that when it comes to doubt, that in place of doubt, do you have process? And if you have doubt and there is no process, then my first recommendation is try to figure out what process makes sense for whatever you're trying to be less doubtful in. And the more you put a recipe or a roadmap together to make good decisions, have good methods, have good project pipelines, whatever it might be, even if you still doubt, even if you have, bad perceptions of yourself, poor attitude, leaning on method, leaning on process can sometimes neutralize your feelings. And I think that's really important. And I think that's helped me be successful everywhere I've gone. So, okay. Man, there are like another 3 questions I didn't get to because we talked about baseball text standardization. So I don't know if I'll do one after work, but I will definitely do these this week. And I will definitely do more. So please chat, ask more questions. I got a bunch I got to do for the next one, but more helps me keep doing these. So disclaimer, if I don't have questions, I just don't do these. And I do wait to get like a bank of questions in order to start them up again. So if you're wondering why there's been like some random lapses, there's a little of me traveling and not doing them, but there's a good amount of me seeing the questions available and either having answered them already or not enough questions to even start a pod. So more questions is always good. Please put them out there in the Discord or in the comments section. And I'll catch you guys next time. See ya, chat.